What's in my cup? Thursdays with the official Tallman on the Tony Culture Time app, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Download the Tony Culture Time app and watch or listen to What's in My Cup Thursdays on the Tony Culture Time app. Thursdays, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
To our viewers, listeners, and subscribers, welcome again to another episode of What's in My Cup, brought to you each and every Thursday, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Brought to you by the Tony Culture Time app. Today we are here. We are with Chann Thonson from the World Boxing Association, who is going to give us a little bit of insight on what's going on today. Chann, welcome.
How's it going?
You hearing me loud and clear?
Absolutely.
All right, good. So, Chann, welcome again. This is your first appearance here on the What's in My Cup podcast,
Yes.
sponsored to us by the Tony Culture Time Up. So, Chann, Wagwan, tell me, how's it going this afternoon?
Can't complain. It's going great. Had a great day of training today. Real great day of training. It was my birthday yesterday, so the new cycle of my life is starting off strong. You know.
I understand you have a twin brother, so both of your birthdays yesterday.
Yeah, exist. Yes.
So, what did you guys do? I do know you were in training yesterday when we were reaching out for the question. So, what did you do yesterday for your birthday?
I trained once, came home, then I'm a steak man. I love steak. Cooked a big steak. Had that for myself, and then relaxed. Some people at the house relaxed a little bit, and then went back to the gym later that night to
So,
my night.
primarily the day consisted of training.
Yes, exactly. Pretty much.
Okay, cool. So, on the What's in My Cup podcast, the first thing we do is we get straight down
Yes.
to business, and then we start mixing it up a little bit in between. So,
Okay.
for our viewers and subscribers, Chann, tell me a little bit about yourself. So, tell me, where are you from,
Yeah.
and some of your historical background.
Okay, well, I'm from Montreal, Quebec, born and raised there. Um, Historical background: I have a twin brother, three sisters. My dad passed away in 2010.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's okay. Yeah, three sisters. I started boxing at the age of 19. Um, Turned professional in 2015 or 2016, I believe. Um, I'm 32 now. 32 years young, older, never old. Um, Working hard. My brother, he joined boxing 3 years before me. Got into it, moved to Jamaica, was training with a coach out there. Came to Toronto. I was having my ins and outs with the sport and some of the coaches and promotions that were happening in Montreal. Made my way to Toronto with my brother. Then we were training together. He branched off to Vegas, moved to Vegas. Before he did that, we had met our promoter in Miami for like some kind of like show and tell, and he watched us spar and he liked what he saw, so he gave us contracts. After that, my brother ended up moving to Las Vegas for about a year, and then I had my first big fight on Showtime just before it kind of like ended and stuff, a year before it ended. And I went to Vegas once for a training camp. And then my promoter was sending me back and forth from Canada to Vegas for training camp. And, the sport of boxing is not the most cleanest and nicest sport. I'm sure people kind of always heard stories about boxing. All that to say, I ended up switching coaches. And
I can't picture it being more dangerous than football.
It is much more dangerous.
Of course it is. That was a trick
Yeah.
question.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and then ended up switching coaches, and now I'm working with a coach that is based in Las Vegas. So with my brother having a place here, I don't see myself like moving here officially, but I'll be here for months at a time,
So right now you're based in Canada.
Yes, Toronto.
Okay, so let's go back a
Yeah.
little bit to the roots. So tell
Okay.
me, growing up, what got you into boxing, or what motivated you to become interested in boxing?
It's an odd and different story. Like ever since I was growing up, like I've always gravitated to when I would watch
Tony, hold on
movies.
up on the TV.
I would always gravitate.
Okay, go ahead, Chen. Continue.
Yeah. When I was growing up, I'd always gravitate towards like when I would watch movies like heroes, heroic figures for their their moral beliefs and their what they represented. So I always wanted to be like a hero, but I was
Okay.
never like the biggest guy. And then when I was younger, I ended up coming across, like when I first discovered like Bruce Lee, like he was a small man that was like dynamic, and he was just amazing. And I always want he was somewhat of a role model to me in terms of like if he could be that powerful and he's that size, and so could I. And I always had I never knew too much about boxing as a child, but I
Mhm.
always loved Muhammad Ali because he represented like a heroic figure in my eyes.
Okay.
So towards the people, and I've always loved the respect that you get, that the hero got from the people, and being that person that everyone could rely on, and he could be a provider for whatever it was. So as I was growing up, I'd always say, oh, I want to be like Bruce, I want to be like Bruce Lee. So
What
I'd
age
always
did you pretty much figure out you wanted to be like Bruce Lee or Muhammad Ali?
it was probably at the age of um maybe like 15, but I never, because the fighting sports or combat, disciplines were new to our family. So it's not like I had my father was doing it or someone that I knew that was doing it that was directly connected to me. So there was always that nervousness and fear to get into it. And then, being a teenager, living life, I kind of like, you know, sidetracked into other things just a little bit. And then at the age of 19, finally, my mom was like, yo, go to the gym. So I said to myself, okay, I'm going to start with boxing. I'm going to do, martial art, karate, and all these other arts. And then I'll do UFC. That was my original plan to go to UFC. So then I'm like, okay, as I did a little bit of jiu-jitsu, had my tournament in jiu-jitsu. Then I did some boxing. I had my first fight in boxing. After my first fight in boxing, I knew right away that that was the avenue for me to, let's say, express this heroic figure that I want to be. So God told me that through boxing, you're going to get your point across. Boxing will be your platform that you will use to reach the masses. You know what I mean?
So I don't know too much about boxing. Obviously, we all grew up knowing about Muhammad Ali,
Yeah.
Mike Tyson, and all of these greats. So, what is a typical day of training like per se? Because I know you have to train a lot, right?
Yes. Okay, so a typical day is kind of like, let me give you a typical day like it's a preparation for a fight, because preparation for a fight, because as a fighter it's our job to train and to be ready for the fight. So ultimately, you're always training, but then you're not, you're training, you're kind of going like this at times depending on what's happening. So I'll give you a typical day of training, like preparation for a fight. So when it's fight time and I have a preparation for a fight, I'll wake up anywhere between let's say 4 and 6 o'clock.
Mhm.
I run 10 kilometers. If that day is a Monday, like a sparring day, then I'll probably wake up and just do my sprints versus burning my legs out early in the morning. So I'll wake up early, do my first training for anywhere between, like I said, like 8 and 5 o'clock. First training. I'll
Okay.
rest. I'll rest. Then from between 11 and I'll get to the gym for 11 o'clock, and from 11 to 2 to 2:30, possibly 3, I'll train. Come back home, eat, a quick bite, relax, take my rest, and then go back to the gym anywhere between like 6:30, 7 and 8, and train till like 9 o'clock, 9:30, 10. So I train 3 times a day
So this
throughout.
is something you have to be like, I'll use the term mentally prepared for, though, correct?
Yes, it's more mental. The I feel like training camp, it's the strain on the body is tough too, but for me, for the most part, I feel like it's more of a matter of mentally, can you do it, because it's like, the sacrifice of the sugar, the sacrifice of the pleasure foods, the sacrifice of maybe girlfriends or women or whatever there may be, things that a regular things that a man could do in his daily life, like a lot of those things get cut out because you're kind of isolated for the 2 months, between 6 to 8 weeks for the training camp. And then also too, as you start to drop weight, sometimes sleeping also becomes hard because you're a little bit hungry. So it's a weird feeling. You're so tired and stressed and like aggravated from training. At the same time, it's hard to sleep, because they say a hungry man is an angry man. So
So they
if
said.
you, yeah, I'm telling you, me and my brother, when we're in the same house and we're both cutting weight, we don't fight, but we will argue. It's like we're quick to argue because it's like two dogs in a cage that are hungry, and then it's like, what I mean, like just the smallest little things. And because we're different type of people at the same time too, um our ways sometimes will clash. But when we're in that particular fighting mode and hungry, ready to fight, that's when those ways start to like cause more attention than any other time, because it's an aggravation.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
So I understand that currently, right now, you're 16-0.
Yes.
So tell me, in you being 16-0, what sets you aside from the other boxers that are currently in your weight class?
Right now, shout out to my promoter Cedric Boswell, because the only thing that sets me aside from like anyone before me is the fact that I'm ranked, top seventh in the world for the WBA organization, and that puts me in line to become a world champion. So the
Top
key
seventh
is
in the
to,
world is big.
yes, definitely, it's an achievement in itself, but not the final destination. You know what I mean? So it definitely what sets me aside is like that being ranked sets me aside. So the fights that we take now are all we do our best to make sure that they're the right fights to keep me growing, keep me sharp and prepared, and then we push for the world title. So I'm in a great position and a sensitive position, meaning I'm not gonna just fight anyone for no reason. All the fights that I take, it's like, okay, you're gonna fight this guy because he's tough and he's durable, and we want to give you a challenge before, let's say, you're the world title. Because I never went past 6 rounds yet. All the guys I fought, I knocked them out before 6 rounds, or they
What's the
went
most
to
rounds you've went?
with 6 rounds exactly.
Oh,
You know,
exactly 6.
yeah. So me, personally, I'm sure my promoter, I believe my promoter feels the same way. Like I wouldn't mind to get a fight before any like top fight. I wouldn't mind getting a fight that would bring me to 10 rounds just to know myself. And if I knock out that top fighter within 6 rounds, then it's like, okay, now I know that that's who I am. You know what I mean? I have the ability to just stop guys. But I would like to face a serious challenge that could teach me, show me myself just in those circumstances. But at the same time, too, to be honest, being out here in Vegas and working with the sparring partners that I'm working with and training with the guys out here in Vegas, um, I have a good idea of what I could do in the 10 rounds. You know what I mean? Because we spar this to prepare for fights.
So who do you consider to be a serious challenger?
In my division, honestly, everyone at the top, everyone in the top 15 realistically are serious, because they wouldn't have made it there if they weren't. Like everyone, and on top of it, it's like obviously the champion, Tank Davis, he's hungry, but I mean, what makes the challengers more hungry is the fact that they really want that spot. So wanting the spot kind of brings a different type of hunger. So anyone that I'm gonna face, I'm sure in their mind that them getting through me just brings them a step closer to where they're trying to go, and vice versa. So I feel like everyone with that aspect is a difficult opponent. When we're speaking about like stylistically, like style versus style, I feel like my style is superior to most fighters. To be honest, that's how I truly feel. But you can never discredit it, the determination of a man, and a fighter, and the will to win. When a person has a serious determination and a strong will to win, often it doesn't matter what he has. If those two components plus his condition is greater than the next, he will most likely be victorious.
So with that being said, how do you overcome setbacks that you may have in the ring or during training? How do you specifically as a person overcome those setbacks and keep the motivation to keep moving forward?
I never had any setbacks as fighting wise as a professional. Obviously I had some sparring days that weren't the best, and
Hmm.
it's weird for boxing. It's like boxing seems to at this particular point, because everything is on camera, seems to be like when you don't have a good day in the gym, which is considered practice, it's like all of a sudden people try to put that as a stigma, like that's who you are. But fighting it in a real fight and sparring are two different things. In a fight, you're trying to work on things. That art, that art of actually like perfecting your craft in sparring has lost because everyone's so determined on winning the sparring. So some people take it to heart, but for me personally, I don't take any bad day in the gym, um I don't hold on to it emotionally. You know what I mean? I just look at it more like logically and assess what happened. And when I see what was happening to me, it's because my hands were too low. Um, Maybe I feel like maybe my weight's a little bit too high, or I need to run more. So the problem is always the solution, in my opinion. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So any bad day is just revealing to me what I need to do, what I need to work on.
So
So that's how I handle it.
let me ask you, with all of the everyday challenges, obstacles, struggles that we as humans face, what is your motivation to keep you plowing through all these obstacles without letting any of them distract you and just focusing on the goal at hand?
See, that is the challenge of every fighter, to be honest, is the daily the life that you live outside of the gym. Because if any fighter could, let's say, like your whole career, you could sleep in the gym and live in the gym, he will be the best because he won't face no distractions. It's the true fight to me, in my opinion, is always the outside world, the outside battle.
Mhm.
And I always used to say, like, I always say shout out to the people because we're all fighters. Ultimately, everyone's life gets in the way of what their goal and their their purpose that they're pursuing. You know what I mean? A lot of our lives get in the way of that thing. You know what I mean? But as a fighter, what makes it more critical and sensitive is the fact that you can't drink, you can't smoke. So these, you know what I mean? You can't be staying up late all the time. Just regular things are detrimental to your career. So I use the fact that um I wouldn't sell I wouldn't settle for, like, if someone were to offer, like, okay, I'm trying to say it best. I wouldn't I wouldn't settle for just piece of my dream. You know what I mean? Versus actually having the dream. If someone, so I always say, like, like, you could stop now and get a little bit of what you want, right? Or you can continue to, and at the end of it have all of what you want. So I've been, faced distractions before in my life too, but never to the point where it deterred me from, especially as a professional, where it deterred me or took away from what I'm doing. I just continue to stay mentally focused, and above all, I put God first. You know what I mean? So just the other day I said, it's either you fear God or you enjoy the devil's pleasures. You could choose. You know what I mean? And
Nice metaphor.
ultimately, yeah, the fear of God will bring you all of the things because God knows your heart and God knows your mind and He wants great things for you. Or you could take the devil's pleasures, and tomorrow, the next day, it's gonna be detrimental to all the things that you are pursuing.
So, do you feel like you've had to make grave sacrifices in order to pursue your boxing career, or do you feel like the sacrifices were minimal to you?
Great sacrifices, down to the point where I missed weddings, baby showers, first things, certain trips with my friends, just being with my family on special occasions, missing, niece and nephews' birthdays and stuff like that. So it was like these things, it's like, sometimes, like, speaking about it, it's hard to hold the weight of how it really feels. But when you're actually going through the training and you're going through everything, and then these things are passing you by, it hurts, because it hurts, where it's just like that. It hurts to the point where it's weird. It's kind of like a good pain. It hurts to the point where it's like the pain is the proof of that this is going to pay off. You understand what I'm saying? Like, so those things are some of the motivations that I use to keep me in check as well. Because I'm not with my niece and my nephew. I'm not with my mother. I'm not with my family. I'm not with my friends. I'm missing weddings, christenings, birthdays, all of the things that are, let's say, great moments to have in one's life. You know what I'm saying? So I'm sacrificing all of those things to pursue this. in order to be there for everyone when it's all said and done. You know what I mean? And I pray to God that I live long enough to do both, that I could have my reward and then come back, because we know tomorrow's not promised. You know what I mean? So again, keeping God first is the most important thing. But those sacrifices are definitely great, and because of those sacrifices, like I'll just say it once. You know what I mean? This is one of the greatest motivations. It's like, in a sense, my mother's tears. You know what I mean? I'll never forget. My mom only had to cry once in her life in front of me for me to feel to want to be a greater man. You know what I mean? For not just in boxing, but to be a man that could provide and take care of her eventually in the future and things like that. So these sacrifices, they're as great as they are. It's like they're necessary, but they are great, and they sting.
So, in going through these, I'll call them, I don't want to use the term obstacles, but let's call them milestones. And going through
Yeah.
these milestones, what type of what do you do to maintain your physical and your emotional health while you're going through these milestones?
Yeah, I've always been while I'm going through these things, through I've always been a person who never had a problem with training, like boxing or no boxing. Like I've always woken up to my mom exercising, so exercise has always been a critical part of my life. Obviously, boxing has raised the bar, so training has never been a problem for me. And working hard, like I enjoy it, I do. So that never falls off, no matter where I am. And as you said, the mental preparation, yeah, honestly, like it's I have to chalk it up to God again, because it's understanding that in my life I'm the main character. As much as I decide to do this, and I want to do this, the decision, like I said, as much as I decide that this is my choice, the life that I'm living is my choice, the choice was put into me. The drive to go for this was put into me. You know what I mean? It's not like I was randomly chilling and I watched a boxing movie, or I watched something, and let's say I was a guy who's doing construction, or I was doing an office job, or I was doing something regularly, and I watched a boxing movie and I said, "Oh, I want to box," and then lo and behold, it turned into something. It's like the feeling of the hero that I'm telling you about. I wanted to be a person who could help those around him, and provide, just to, like, support to my loved ones and anyone who I could reach. That feeling was been inside me for so long. So keeping my mental clarity, it's just understanding that I'm going through my life, I'm the main character of my story. And what great movie doesn't have ups and downs, crossroads, drama, and all of these sort of situations? So I just look at it like another scene in my life.
So, tell me, do you also train with your brother, or do you guys train separately?
We have two different coaches. Like right now, I feel like we're put in a blessed position because we still have two different coaches. But my coach and his coach, they've worked side by side before. They know each other well. I think the coach I'm working with was coaching my brother's coach at one point. So when my coach, he had to go to a funeral, so I wasn't with him for the week. But I told him that I went to with my brother's coach, and then I was working with my brother's coach. So I've come to realize that it's better for us to be separate coaches. Like on the occasion, we could work with the same coaches here and there, but it's better that he has his own coach and I have my own coach, so that we give each other our spaces. Being twins, right? You tend to be treated as one naturally. Instinctively, people, when they treat you, they'll do things for the both of you guys. They'll do things for the both of you guys. Versus and it's like I don't take offense to it anymore at this particular at my age, because I understand what it is. But when I was younger, it's like me and my brother it's like we're fighting for our own individuality, because the world is treating us like we're the same. It's like when if there's five people and me and my brother, five people will get individual things, and me and my brother will either get the same thing or share. We have to share the same thing, but it's like we're still two different people. You know what I mean? So with him being hit with, if I feel like maybe us being together could instinctively make the coach, instead of being okay, he needs 100%, he needs 100%. It's like the time to be divided, you know. So him having his own coach, me having my own coach, it's a guarantee that he's gonna get the things that he needs, and I'm gonna get the things that I need. You know what I mean, for myself, and he'll get for himself. But we do work side by side together with each other, especially now that I'm in Vegas. We will, like, you know, train together, run together, do push-ups, sit-ups, things together, motivate each other.
So, with all the time that you have to devote to training and things of this nature, does that leave a very much room for a social and personal life? Like, specifically, do you have a wife, kids, a girlfriend, significant other?
Mhm. No, I have no wife, girlfriend, or anything like that right now. Like I said, being number 7 in the world, it's like it takes a lot of. I gotta buckle down more, shave off everything. Obviously, I have people that I contact, you know what I mean, and that I'm in talks with, but nothing too serious. And the social life, thank God that, you know, because I wasn't born into the sport where it was like I'm a kid and that's all I knew. I did develop a life, and I did develop friends, and you know what I mean, where I have these things. So these people I stay in contact with weekly. You know, they're all of my circle are are much like-minded like myself. They all work hard in their own, you know, in their own field and what they do, and we use our success to motivate one another. You know, so I always say, they say work hard and party hard, play hard, work hard. But to me, it's play hard, work harder, because the work brings the play. You know what I mean? So if the work brings the play, the work always got to be a little bit above the play. You know what I mean? So my social life is good, but, you know, all the people around me that, you know, that I do socialize with understand what it is that I'm achieving, and support the choices that I'm making. So I don't miss too much.
So I've never been to Vegas. It's always been on my bucket list. For whatever reason, my group of friends, every time we plan this Vegas trip, there's always one or two people who back out, and it's like
I
we
can't make it.
never end up going to Vegas.
Yeah.
But I've always envisioned that in Vegas, just my opinion, but I feel like it would be pretty easy to kind of have a semi-social life if you're in
Yes,
Vegas.
for sure. For sure. I guess because I didn't grow up here, and I came here strictly on like boxing, and the boxing is so big here. It's easy to just my social life. Let's say my social life is like I've met some good solid dudes out here through the sport of boxing, you know, and they're all focused as well, you know, and our relationship goes as far as boxing. You know, my brother, he actually lives here, so he developed a more of a close relationship with certain other boxers from the boxing world, and
Mhm.
that have transcended a little bit outside of the boxing realm. But my realm of socialize doesn't go too far out of the world of boxing in Vegas. So maybe like when my bros come down, like they're all my guys like to travel too. So it's not a problem for them to come. And my brother likes, we have the space here and everything too. So it's nice.
From Canada, they come down.
Yeah, they'll come. Yeah.
So again, I've also never been to Canada.
Oh, okay. Canada is very nice.
It's been something that's been on, and I have so much family in Montreal, Ontario, Quebec.
Wow.
It's always been something that's my mother's side of the family, who
Okay.
migrated from Jamaica. A lot of them
Yes.
didn't land in the U.S. like we did. They landed in Canada.
Yeah. Yeah.
Always been on the bucket list. For whatever reason, though, never been able to make it across that border. So it's something that's on the list of things to do. But I feel like people always say in life, you make time for what you want to make time for. But I think they misunderstand the concept that when
Yeah.
you're dedicated and obligated to something, sometimes that takes
Yeah.
90% of your time, and then you only have 10% to dedicate
Yeah.
to other
Exactly.
things.
That's what I said. The goal is to work hard enough so that your work can allow you to do these things, you know?
And a
You
lot of
like go
people
like this
don't
when you want.
understand that concept.
No, it's true. It's true. You can't just get up and go. For the most part, I know a lot of people who work, and then they'll take like a 3 week vacation, or, you know, twice a year. But when they go back home, all they do is work, and they go travel the world twice a year. But to me, like, you know, boxing has allowed me to travel and, you know, to see different places. So it's a blessing.
I mean,
But to be honest, I myself am not focused on traveling right now. I want to, like I said,
so much.
create a life where every day, like the day that I said I could travel every day. So when all this is said and done, the lifestyle that I'm living now, I can live, but without the pressures of like having to compete and boxing. I could do what I want, you know, when I want.
So let me ask you this: I watch in the boxing matches that I have watched, I tend to believe that opponents form an opinion about either themselves or the opponent before they get in the ring. So you specifically, what is your mindset like when you're getting in the ring with an opponent?
Well, I try to study him as much as I can. Even like it's funny. I study him as much as I can. Even like watch even his interviews or just see what, because I like to get a feel of the type of person he is too. You know what I mean? Like as weird as it is, it's almost as if like I want to get to know him before I actually get in the ring with him, so I can get a better sense. Because I try to feel him out as much as I can before I have to feel him out.
Mhm.
And it's the strangest feeling though when you're going to the ring, because I actually, outside of, as much as I try to get to know him and I watch his boxing, styles make fights. So maybe you could watch something that night, but he was like that for that specific fighter. You know what I mean? Like me, when I study opponents, I don't just look for what he did that night. You know what I mean? I look for specific things, but at the same time too, you have to, while absorbing all the information that you absorb, you have to keep a very like open mind about him too, because he could be who knows what he's going through mentally or how his life is going. He can come, maybe he wasn't doing well, maybe things are going on in his life when you were watching him, and today he's at his perfect. You know what I mean? If you have the assumption of whatever you might have, that could hinder what you need to, your adjustments that you might need to make. So I take everything with a grain of salt, and I just keep a very, very, very open mind, and then the first jab will tell me everything.
So, do you keep things pretty much mellow, or are you a shit talker when you're getting into the ring?
Uh, I guess it will all depend, because naturally, me, I've been always like a shit talker, like growing up and joker. I like to joke around, but to me, it's like it all depends on the opponent as well too. Because I fought some guys who's like in the beginning of my career, where it's like these guys, they're being brought, but it's like there's no way that this guy's gonna beat me. You know what I mean? Like his record is very bad. I don't need to talk smack to an opponent that I know I'm gonna necessarily beat. If I was fighting, a bigger fight, I would speak my mind, and if he considered that as me talking shit, then then he would have to take it there. I wouldn't deliberately like tear him down. You know what I mean? But I would speak my mind, say how I feel and how I feel honestly. Throwing a 1, 2 jokes here because I like to joke. You know what I mean? And if that's what it was, if it turned into more, then it would turn into more.
So, what are your current thoughts on the boxing industry presently and for the future of boxing?
Presently, I love it. People are getting, fighters are getting paid, but I just feel like I don't like the fact that it's like there's so much pressure on a fighter not losing, and if you lose, you get thrown away. Where back in the day, guys who had 2, 3 losses, it's like all they have to do is get back to the gym and make their way back up. But because social media is so dangerous and social media crushes fighters, and everyone has to be perfect on social media, it's like all of a sudden it's like this the stigma is if you lose, you're garbage and you're not good no more, which is like isn't fair for someone who put their whole life into this. You know what I mean? They deserve a chance. And a lot of fighters sometimes after certain losses, it's like you don't see them for so long because of maybe mental depression, because of what they think that the world perceives of them. You know what I mean? So it's in a great place in terms of like, the money's good and all, but I just feel like I wish us as boxers, put more of the risk back into the sport, because as a fighter, you are a risk taker, but as a businessman, his thought process is to take the least amount of risk. So when you have a fighter talking about the business, talking about the business, talking about the business, talking about the business, you could guarantee that he ain't really trying to do anything, fight anyone that could potentially mess up his business. You know what I mean? Until the fight, business wise, sets him up for life. But well, back in the day, it was like, oh, he says he's the best. I'm gonna show you who's the best. Today, there's 1,000. Like, there's how many? There's so in every division, there's at least 20 guys that are the best in the world. That doesn't make any sense to me. How is everyone the best in the world? It's like, for instance, you right now are considered on a spectrum one of the best drivers in the world too. You know what I'm saying?
Depends what spectrum they're looking at.
But I was like, I'm saying, out of all the people in the world that know how to drive, you are one of the best. You know what I'm saying? Like you're up there somewhere. So it's like, oh, okay, everyone is world class level, okay, but then all the world class level guys are avoiding each other so that they don't, so they all stay undefeated and just look good. And at the end of the day, I can't really knock it because it's working. You know what I mean? They're getting paid and they're feeling good, but it's like, okay, so as a boxer, you just want to make money. You don't want to become the greatest. You know, it's not about the warrior spirit anymore so much. You know, as much as you have to be a warrior, you know what I mean? You still got to be a warrior regardless. This is no joke. But it's not like if you look at fights from back in the day, from round 2, the action, the way that they punch, you know, just, I don't know, it's so different.
Is that an endeavor though? Do you have that endeavor to become one of the greatest, or are you just going with the flow and wherever?
Yeah, I definitely, I know because I started boxing late, I'm not gonna be one of the greatest in terms of I broke records in the sport of boxing or I influenced the sport of boxing. You know what I mean? If my influence through the sport of boxing will come differently, I think it will come from the type of champion that I am and from how I inspire young fighters or fighters that will come up. And if those young fighters want to pursue themselves to be in this type of champion because they're younger and they have more time in the sport, then the sport will change. You know what I mean? But me myself, I will probably just be the spark for certain changes for the person to make the change. But as far as one of the best fighters in the world, I believe me beating one of the top fighters will give me a legendary stamp in the sport of boxing. You know what
Why
I
do
mean?
you think
Because
you started late?
pardon me.
Why do you think you started late?
I mean, no. I don't think I started late because I don't have miles on me. If you take a car from back in the day and it only has 100, let's say 100 miles on it, it doesn't matter what year it's from. It's still a great car. You know what I mean? But I feel like in terms of where boxers, it's like this, like boxing. Oh, you start boxing, you're supposed to start at like 8 years old, you know. So by the time you're 24, you could become world champion and blah 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 blah. But God has given me all the attributes of any world champion. You know what I mean? Me and my brother, you know. So and the work ethic of any world champion, if not greater than any champion. So I'm not worried about that. Like I said, me and my brother, we call the Thonson arc. Yeah, we're not gonna rule the sport of boxing for a long time, but they will remember those two twins that came to the sport, and especially because we're twins, that's what makes you have to turn your head twice. Because even in Vegas, they know us as the twins. You know what I mean? Me and my brother, when we go to the gyms, we're not in the gyms out here getting beat up. You know what I'm saying? We're actually we're holding our own or handing out the beatings. You know what I mean? So
What are his stats in comparison to yours?
my style, my brother's style. It's funny because it's like both of us together is the perfect fighter because he's quick handed, he's quick hands, good reflexes, but he's a pressure fighter. Like his focus, his priority is like, I'm gonna hurt you. Like when I touch you, it's over. You know, I gotta hit you. I gotta hit you once. Obviously, he puts his hands together. You know, he has to know it's not just about landing the one shot, but it's like, but he has that style. If he hits you once, the whole game can change. The whole fight can change, and not just it. Only have to be 100% clean. Like it could be on your shoulders, it could be on your arm. He's gonna break it down. Me, I'm more of a, he's already. We're both orthodox.
Okay.
And my style is more like I'm on my toes. You know, I could come forward too and box. I know when to come forward, but my first approach is to be on my toes and like calculate, see what's going on. You know, like I might lose the first round because I took time to assess what was happening. And then when I see what's going on, I'm going to come and like if there's an obstacle, my brother, his first instinct is to go through it. And he's not questioning that. Me, I'm gonna think a little bit. I'm like, okay, I don't have to go through this. I can go around it. I can go under it. I could maybe like go like sideways. I can do different things. So that's how my thought process is as a human being in general. Where my brother's more sometimes he's very more like stern with his decisions, and he didn't think too much about decisions. What comes to his mind first, that's what he's rolling with. You know.
So, do you feel like you're more of a critical thinker or an overthinker?
Yes, I am much more of a critical thinker. You know,
Much more critical than overthinking.
Yeah. Oh no, not critical thinker. Never overthinking. I
Or are
used
you an
to over.
analyst?
I'm an analyst, philosopher, and a critical thinker.
Mixed in one.
Yes, when I used to be an overthinker when I was young because I was still discovering myself. I was still discovering myself, so I never knew what was what. And where to pinpoint all of these thoughts. Honestly, like as I started coming closer to God, that's what allowed me to help me narrow myself down to as narrow myself down, but still be very much broad. I'm still a critical thinker, but narrow myself down and help me focus. But as a critical thinker from such an early age, and like deep thoughts as an early age, and the process of like growing up, knowing myself, always allowed me to overthink things. It was a lot.
So, in the top fighters that you speak about, I do observe that you haven't mentioned any of them specifically by name, but I do want to ask you, what,
Yeah.
in your opinion, would be your ideal fight? What would be your ideal matchmake? Who do you think you can match up with, and that'll be like the perfect fight?
Um, the perfect fight.
In your
There's a guy.
opinion,
Yeah, there's a guy named Frank Martin. He's a southpaw. I think he's from Detroit. Him. There's a dude named. See, I'm forgetting his name. It's fine. I'm not good with names in boxing. I'm a boxer who doesn't do too much boxing, study too much boxing. Um, I forget his guy's name. Some Latin dude. And there's a dude from. I don't know. He's actually fighting this guy named Rolly above the weight class, but his name was Pitbull Cruz. Stylistically, that would be like the easiest top fighter for me to choose because he's a come forward fighter and he fights like this. He walks
is
and
that
he's
bad or good?
slow. I mean, for him, it's been working. It got him to where he's going to, but I don't see him. I've never seen him beat any fighter that can move on his feet and that's slick and that can box like myself. You know what I mean? Because to me, a guy his style like that is a walk in the. He won't be a walk in the park, but I'm saying like his style, as long as I'm in shape and I'm ready to do what I do, it will be a walk in the park.
Is there a potential chance that in the future you guys will be matched up
I
together?
mean, he's ranked I think like number 3 in the division. So there is a chance. Like I said, right now he's fighting for a world title above my weight class. I don't know why. So if he wins, I'm sure he'll stay in that weight class. But if he loses and he comes back, then there definitely will be a chance that I'll fight him. Because honestly, my goal, like let's say like in when I see my box career, it's like when I become champion, I will defend the belt like three times, maybe 4 times in my division. And when I defend it, it's not gonna. I'm trying to bring boxing back. I'm not gonna just wait for another champ to fight me. I'll defend it against the number 1 guy, the number 2 guy, the number 3 guy. I'll give those guys chances. You know what I mean? I would fight the top in the division versus saying I have to wait for the perfect fight. If the next champion doesn't want to fight, I'm not going to sit around and do nothing. I'm going to fight whoever's next in line and give him the shot. You know what I mean? So I believe that I would be once I become world champion, if not before, beat some of these top guys, or when I become world champion, I'd at least beat 3-4 of them. And then if there was ever a big fight in a higher weight class, then I would do it.
So, what weight class are you currently in?
Lightweight, so 135.
135. So, give me some names of lightweight champs. While I'm familiar with heavyweight, but I'm not really.
Yeah, so there's Tank Davis. Well, right now there's only one champion because Devin Haney was the champion and he had all the belts. So the only champion right now currently is Tank Davis, and all the other 3 other belts that I'm not ranked for those 3. So Tank Davis is the one he's the champion in for the WBA, but for the other belts, they're all vacant. Oh no, sorry, a guy named Shakur Stevenson, he has one of the belts too. Shakur Stevenson, Tank Davis, and then the 2 other ones are vacant. So those are up for grabs. You know what I mean? So there's not much champions in the division, but honestly the top 5 guys in my category, they're pretty much the same top 5 guys for those other belts too. You know what I mean? I'm just ranked only one specifically for this one, but the top 5 is pretty much the same top 5 through all the sanctioning bodies.
So, do you have aspirations of becoming a heavyweight champ?
Heavyweight, never. I'm too small to ever become heavyweight.
You can get big.
I can get big, but those guys are like 6'4". You know what I mean? Like, you
Muhammad
know,
Ali's height.
yeah, exactly. They're all tall and then big. You know what I mean? Like that would be a historical moment.
It's not
I mean,
impossible.
well, with God, nothing isn't. So if God tells me to do it, I'll do it.
So let me ask you a question. Where would somebody like, although he's retired,
Yeah,
where would like a Pacquiao fall in class with where this is lined up for you?
like you're talking about like his legacy.
Not in his legacy. Let's say he decides he wants to make a comeback, and at the same time, you're one of
Me,
the leading
he
challengers.
I would never be the guy he fight because he fights his division is 2 classes above mine. So 140 is first class above mine, and then 147 is another class. So if he were to come back, I actually think he would go 3 classes above me, which is at 154 because of his age and his weight. I don't
Mhm.
think maybe as an older man it'd be a lot to bring his weight down to that level. But it's funny. I was actually training. He has a gym here in Las Vegas that he has 4 Filipino fighters that he signed. The sparring video that I had posted the other day was against one of his fighters.
I'm aware. That's why I asked the question.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so it was pretty cool. The Pacquiao's
Yeah,
amazing too.
I
He's an
found that
amazing
out
man
during
too.
my research.
Oh,
That's why I
okay.
asked about Pacquiao specifically.
Nice. Nice,
So
nice, nice.
let me ask you this: who do you consider to be, and take Muhammad Ali out of it, um, take Tyson, take all the big names out of it,
Okay.
underdog wise, who do you consider, or in your opinion,
A big
that
underdog?
truly a champ, but he was rated as a big underdog?
Um, I would have to say Manny Pacquiao because of how he came. Like when I watched his first fight in America, he took it on 2 weeks' notice. And the guy that he was fighting, I think it was an African, and they were talking highly of like it was like Pacquiao's coming, and like the perception was, okay, we're calling this Filipino guy coming for 2 weeks, 2 weeks notice. He's gonna get beat, and then we're gonna pay him and send him home. And he demolished that guy. And then now people want to see more of who he is. You know what I mean? So then he started getting those calls. You know, so I really, really, really like Pacquiao. You know, humble beginnings. I saw he was doing a little documentary about him, and he went into like a bush, and he's like, we used to live here. I was like, what? It looks like he's looking at. It looks like you're looking at like just a random spot in the forest. You know what I mean? And he said we used to live here. So as far as like heroic people's champ, him giving back to his community and like being a man of God, like I really respect Pacquiao. To me, he's the
Even
second greatest of all time.
even when you were earlier speaking about managing all these things, remember Pacquiao's a politician back home in the
Yeah,
Philippines, actively
exactly, exactly.
active seat. He runs a school too, I believe, or is a
Yeah,
board member of a school. Plus, he's active at the church. He participates in the band.
that's what I'm saying.
So we're talking about balancing 6, 7 different things while at the same time going to training, really
Yeah,
being active and focusing on boxing. So I would have to
yeah, yeah,
agree with you that I
yeah.
think taking out
He's
all
great.
the major champs that we know about, Pacquiao would absolutely have to be my nominee for underdog as opposed to really being underrated.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. He's a great man. More than anything else. Like I always feel like it never. I feel like what we do in life never. It's never so much what we do, but how do we use what we do to serve? You know what I mean? To me, it's like that's the best thing. How do we give back with what we do? You know?
So I noticed you mentioned and a lot during our conversation you thank God a lot. So are you a heavy spiritual person?
I am. Like I've always been a truth seeker in my life. I've always wanted to I like mystery things that were like mystery to me, and like I always had a curious mind, and I've always wanted to find the truth. And when I came across Christ, Jesus Christ, like a year and a half ago, 2022, in 2022, and I came across him, and I realized that this is the truth, and I just was no longer in search, and I just put all my time and focus into that, and I've seen the miracles in my life. I've seen the miracles in other people's lives, and I've seen that this is what God called me for. Because even as a joke, I always used to say, like, when I first when I was even an amateur, I'm like, God, you're gonna call me. When I fight in America, that's when God's gonna call me. And right after, as I started fighting in America, when I got signed to my promoter, my second fight with my promoter, I'm like, okay, God, I had a conversation with my friends, and he was talking to me about the word, and I was like, okay, 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 like something I want to read, but we'll see. Then I said, God, if you want me to read the word, you bring me the Bible. I'm not gonna, go get it myself. And then at my second fight, in my most right before the weigh-in, when I'm very like at my most focused, most hungry, so fasting, so to say, I just as soon as we got to the hotel, I opened up the drawer and the Bible was there, and I just started laughing. I was like, okay, like those multiple signs those multiple signs and the things that happened in my life that God pulled me towards him and pulled me towards Christ, so that the same heroic message and calling that I have for the world, God basically told me, you're not gonna become world champion and say what you want to say. You're gonna be you're gonna obey me. I'm gonna make you a world champion, and then you're gonna give my message to the world.
So do you feel like that's something that came to you naturally? Do you think that it's weird that you seem to have found this at such an age developed, or do you think it was just your calling?
Definitely my calling, because like since I was young, the things that I would like my level of the things that I would perceive of life, like amongst my friends, you know, I'm known as like I used to call myself like a Zen master. I'm known as a person who just had like not, I won't say a higher level of insight, but just a different level of insight, like how I would perceive things, and how I would perceive situations or life circumstances, or how I would connect this to that or this to life. I've always been very in depth with, my thought process, like I said, critical thinker, understood different things, like I said, searching for truth throughout my life. And then I feel like I was given grace because I wasn't with Christ in those times of my walk. But I was having difficulties in my career. My career wasn't pursuing either because of certain, things that were going on back home. And then as my career finally had I got my promoter, and things started to now move forward, where it's like I'm gonna be under the lights, I'm gonna be doing the interviews, I'm gonna be spreading the word, I'm going to be influencing people. That's when God decided, made not decided, but that's when God let it be time for me to him for me to be reveal himself to me in the way that it would bring me closer to him and obey him, greater.
So I think that sometimes we search for things with the misguided presumption that it's what we should do. And during our search, we find ourselves taking a completely different path, and we feel a spiritual connection to this path. And
Yes.
at some point, we decide that, you know what, maybe the road I was trying to go down was not the right one, but I feel a force pulling me towards this one. And when we take
Yes.
that path, we find out that that's the path that we're going to be prosperous on.
Yeah, exactly. More times than not, like 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 when it's almost as if like, like how can someone know right from wrong? You know, like instinctively without knowing right or wrong. You know what I'm saying? Of someone being told that was wrong and that was right. If someone commits murder or something in front of a child, the child's reaction will show you that whatever he witnessed was wrong. You know what I mean? Because there's a sensation. The Holy Spirit is inside of all of us. You know what I'm saying? So whether we're fully, aware and connected to God or not, that feeling, people always say, "Oh, I had a feeling." Where do you think that feeling comes from? You know what I'm saying? Where do you think that feeling comes from? So it's God, and directs us, because ultimately that's what it is that we're supposed to do. Someone can say all night, someone can meet you and have a deal for you, or all kinds of like say good things to you, and then you go, oh wow, 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 but then something is not right sitting with you. That's what you have to go with, because that feeling could always seen. That feeling is able to see what your eyes can't. You know what I'm saying? Travel a distance that your body can't go either. I always saying dream. When we dream, we're just envisioning when we have our dreams that we're pursuing, we're just envisioning. We're just reviewing the script that God has written for us. Your life is already written. God stands outside of time and space. You know what I mean? I mean, it's not, there's no effort for him to put his hand upon you. You know what I mean? There's no hiding from him. It doesn't take time for God to do something, but he's very patient. And for us, it seems like time is taking, like, God, I'm struggling, like time, like go month, go year, go 2 years, struggle. But ultimately, when you stay true to that feeling in that pursuit of what you're doing, that either is going to lead you to the end goal of what it is that you feel, or it's going to branch off to something even greater than you thought. It's one of the two. You know what I mean? When you're working with God.
Definitely,
Yeah.
definitely agree with you on that concept. Chann, while our time is coming to an end, I do want to
Yes.
ask you, do you have any upcoming fights that we should be looking forward to while we follow your progress moving forward?
Absolutely. I have to say, uh, my brother has spoken to my promoter, so I gotta speak to him to confirm it. But as far as I know, April 20th in Ohio, that's looking like the date that's gonna be. And I have to say that this fight is definitely one to make sure to see, because I know that I will be, fighting somewhat of someone that will be able to give me a challenge. But this will be I will, I'm working with a new coach. I mean, I'm here training a full 8-week camps side by side with my brother. Um, and I'm learning new things. My mind is clear. I'm focused and highly motivated. So this fight is gonna be one. This fight will. I don't care. It don't matter. It could be the champion. It could be whoever it is gonna be. But this performance that I'm gonna put on will make the people, when they see me, they're gonna say, yeah, like the only person that he has to fight for the title after this. When they see me how I win. You know what I mean?
So to piggyback off our previous conversation, I noticed that in your bio you have Hebrews chapter 11 verse 1.
Yes.
Why Hebrews chapter 11 verse 1?
Okay, because it says faith is the evidence of things not seen. Nothing, there's nothing, whatever made this world isn't in this world. You know what I mean? Nothing in the world made the world. You know what I'm saying? So no matter what you're doing in life, right? No matter what struggles you go through, no matter what you go through, there's a force that is working on your behalf that is not visibly present. You know what I'm saying? You always have to assume that there is a force working for you in the scene, in behind scenes that you cannot see. You know what I'm saying? So it doesn't matter. Like if I tell you I'm gonna go to the store for you, you know what I mean? I'm gonna go to the store for you and get you something to eat. You know that. You saw me. You're not worried. I'm gonna go, come back, get you your stuff. God is working on your behalf in that same manner, but for far more things that I could, like I said, God don't have no space or time, so it don't matter. But it's all going to be in His timing. You know what I mean? So be patient, stay true to the path. Don't lose faith in God, which is worrying. When you worry about things, it's a form of losing faith. Don't lose faith, and always know that there's a higher force, which is God, working on your behalf. So it don't matter. You have to have that faith. Faith is the proof. So faith is a proof of the invisible. The fact that I believe proves that invisible thing is very much real. You know what I mean?
I definitely love that explanation. It's extremely informative and it makes sense. And not only does it make sense, but it's relatable for our
Yes.
age group. It's relatable.
Yes. Trust me. This is what I've been called to do. You know what I'm saying?
I definitely like the mindset that you lead with. Chann, I definitely want to thank you for taking the time out
Thank you.
to come on What's in My Cup to speak with me today. In the future, as we follow your progress, we will reach out because we always like to bring you back to follow your progress. So our
Absolutely.
viewers and
Absolutely.
subscribers can be updated with what you have going on. To all our viewers and subscribers and listeners on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, exclusively on the Tony Culture Time app itself. I want to thank you again for tuning in. Another Thursday, another episode of What's in My Cup, brought to you by the Tony Culture Time app. I want to give a shout out to Chann. I want to give a shout out to his
Thank you.
brother Trevor. You can have an opportunity to give your shout outs as well.
We
Shout out
got
Michelle, shout out Tony Culture for making this interview possible.
absolutely shout out Tony Culture. Shout out all of the associate in Jamaica boxing too. Shout out to my promoter Cedric Boswell. Shout out to my new coach Otis. Shout out to my family, friends, and stay tuned. You know, the future world champion is here.
Yeah, you guys heard it here first. The future world champion is here.
Yeah,
Chann, thank you so much. It was a
go.
pleasure speaking with you today.
Yep, amen.
All right.
Thank you.
Viewers and subscribers, again, this has been another episode of What's in My Cup each and every Thursday on the Tony Culture Time app. You can see us on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, and directly on the app. Until next time, we are out.
Take care.
All right. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Come and download the Tony Culture Time app. Yes, the Tony Culture Time app, the one place you can come listen to good Jamaican reggae music. Right here, Tony Culture Time app. Come and get the Tony Culture Time app right now. Download the Tony Culture Time app right now. You hear, you see? See it ya. Get it.